Thank you very much, Janet. I think that's a fantastic segue into me talking about the Healthy Aging Challenge, which actually was part of the Grand Aging Challenge. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Healthy Aging Challenge Social, Behavioural and Design Research Programme, which was the research programme set up as part of that challenge. And this was created under Theresa May's jurisdiction, which feels like donkey's years ago. It's actually only about 5 years ago, under the industrial strategy. And the intention was to stimulate the ageing market, so bringing business into the ageing ecosystem. One of the things that the challenge wanted to do was to make sure that older people were at the heart of designing quality products, which traditionally they hadn't been. So really bringing older people to work with business, really from the forefront, and aligning healthy aging solutions with their needs and wants. So the vision of the Healthy Aging Challenge was to enable businesses, including social enterprises, led by research, to develop and deliver services and products that supported older people, to really allow them to remain independent, although I prefer to say interdependent, and socially connected. And one of the things I think that was very important in the Healthy Aging Challenge was it wasn't just research. There are a whole range of initiatives under the challenge, which had £98 million, ranging from trailblazers, which were engaging businesses ready to scale up to market, to catalysts, where we had researchers developing spin-outs and were mentored by Zinc. So a whole range of programs with the research as a wraparound and a supporting function, and also a community of practice where we could all share our ideas and thoughts from a whole set of thematic areas. And the research programme centred around 7 themes of the challenge, where it was felt that research or an investment could make a difference in delivering that vision. And here are the 7 challenge themes. And they produced a very holistic picture, I think, of what made for a healthier later life. And we've seen these rather as challenges, more as opportunities where we can make a difference, and more importantly, make a difference to social transformation, not just health, and opportunities for business to get engaged and to make a difference in the lives of older people. And I think for the very first time, one of the distinctive things was bringing business into the research arena. It had been quite piecemeal before, but this programme, I think, following on from Alan's commentary, was really distinctive. And looking back at all the programmes, there's always been something that's been distinctive. I think Alan, in the New Dynamics of Ageing, really made sure that co-production with older people, that interdisciplinarity was really there and really spearheaded that emphasis. And I think for our programme, working with business was quite revolutionary in some ways. We've learned a lot. And so the Social and Behavioural and Design Research Programme, part of the challenge, focused specifically on research and had several different themes. I'm not going to go through all of these. These are all available on our website, which you'll see at the end. But age-friendly housing was one really key area where we could work alongside businesses in the trailblazers and other initiatives that had been funded. And you'll hear a little more from the Desha project in a moment. We had projects focusing on the outdoor environment, particularly looking at extending active life for people with cognitive impairment through innovations in the visitor economy or tourism, and in the natural environment, and some really interesting initiatives going on throughout the UK on that. And also looking at environmental determinants of health. So one team, which you'll hear about in a moment, looking at air pollution and the effect of that on healthy aging. A major theme was also on work, so maintaining health at work and looking at hidden health in the workplace, things like menopause and how that was affecting people's healthy lifestyle, and looking at workforce retention in the social care environment. Supporting social connections through digital inclusion, the GOLD project, was really looking at digitally connecting people, for example, through sports reminiscence and working with football teams and businesses in relation to that. And supporting healthy aging, reducing inequalities through co-produced cultural activities, engaging marginalized groups, disabled groups in cultural activity. We also felt that there were some gaps in that framework, so we commissioned another set of projects, and we focused very much on particular environments. I was keen to look at the retail environment. There's very little research on what's happening in retail and hospitality. And so we had another series of projects, one raising awareness and developing pathways to impact, working with retailers and retail organizations to deliver impact, not research, but deliver all the research and look at impact. And there's a stand at the back there illustrating some of that work. Climate change. We felt there was a huge gap here. We needed to look at sustainability, climate change, and we have a number of projects looking at that, looking at co-designing inclusive climate change reaction in age-friendly cities. And these projects, of course, are spread across the UK. In terms of the distinctiveness of the programme, I've talked about bringing business on board as a distinctive element. But there are 5 things, I think, where we would like to highlight that distinctiveness, real cross-cutting themes for all the projects. They all co-produced their research, co-designed their research with older people themselves, but also with business. And I think this tripartite co-production is quite a distinctive feature. Not easy, of course, but all the projects have been doing this, and we've had several really interesting workshops. We wanted this to be meaningful engagement with older people, meaningful engagement with business, not a tokenistic, just an advisory board, but really working together throughout the process of research. Interdisciplinarity, we've heard a lot about that this morning, but wanting to put social science at the heart because it really contributes to everything in relation to aging, geroscience included, and bringing design and arts and humanities as well as social science to the fore. One of the things I'm particularly pleased that we've been able to do, and building on all the hard work that Alan has done in building capacity for the next generation of leaders in gerontology and social gerontology in particular. And given that we started the challenge during COVID, what we've tried to do is really develop those network opportunities for our early career researchers, taking them out on international trips, engaging them in mentorship, and leadership courses. And they themselves have formed a wonderful group together, peer support group, that's hopefully now linking with the British Society of Gerontology early researchers in aging, so that we have a legacy when the programme finishes next March, that there will be ongoing support for our early career researchers. Of course, they need funding research, so funders in the audience, think hard about this. We need to keep these programmes going. And also policy impact. A lot of the emphasis, of course, has been on England, and I'm very keen that we really work in the devolved nations. We've got projects, in fact, half of our projects are in the devolved nations, and really looking at those policy differences and how do we really get under the skin of our policymakers in those devolved nations. We want to amplify the messages from the programmes as a team, but also promoting a programmatic approach as well to achieve the vision of the challenge and to really get funders across the UK to think about the next programme. So the best thing to do is to give you a snapshot of some of these projects. So I'm going to end on an introduction to 3 projects, and I'll leave you with our video.
As we age, we want to stay in our own homes, but our own homes can become alienating, confusing, difficult environments, particularly if we're experiencing cognitive change or dementia.
The problem's going to be that as you get to 55, 65, 75, 85, you're going to have an increasing number of health conditions, and that's going to get increasingly complex. So having a house that works for you really means thinking strategically about that.
DESHCA, Designing Homes for Healthy Cognitive Aging, is a research project which aims to improve the design of homes so that they can support people to be healthy and to live their best life.
It's really critical to be doing this research now because we need to get in at the right stage with policymakers, decision makers, developers, planners, and all of these people have been involved in this research.
We've had a massive number of research activities. We've collected data from lots of different people in lots of different ways. And what's really important is how we now communicate that.
The big innovation that we're looking at is developing a designed home that can be an exemplar of good supportive design.
We've also converted that evidence into real items that we can use day to day. Organisations and communities can use our serious game, for example, a board game to help professionals or service users facilitate and think about the ageing process into the future, working out what adaptations should we prioritise, how do we think through the accessibility of different individual rooms in the home. The other item that's really tangible is the virtual reality work that we've been doing in the project. So people can put on, the eyeglasses, and they can see what does a really good designed home look like that supports healthy aging. There are many things, endless things we can actually do to the home to adjust it, from the very small to having a certain plug at a certain place, to the very large to enlarging your door frames, etc.
The co-design is so important on a project like this because the lived experience actually informs teaching, it informs research, it informs the project.
So the funding from the UKRI Healthy Ageing Challenge has been really integral to getting to the DESHCA project up and running, not just in terms of funding it, but funding it at this scale.
We've not only provided a vast array of evidence, from kind of wider patterns of statistics to real stories, real narratives, real understanding of how people use their homes.
The Healthy Ageing Challenge is critically important because the chance to live independently actually keeps you out of the NHS.
If you're involved in housing policy, housing design, or building, please contact us to learn more about design for healthy cognitive aging.
We're really interested in increasing participation in arts and cultural activities in order to increase social connectivity for older people, and particularly older people who are disabled socioeconomically and racially minoritized in society. And we're working with them throughout the project to co-design innovative products, services, performances alongside creative industries, creative technologists, artists and others. So the older people themselves are at the centre of that design process, and I think that's the innovation, and that's the thing that we want to find out more about and hopefully offer some guidance to other people. We think that we will have national and hopefully international impacts as well from this project, because everyone is looking for alternative ways of doing digital innovation for older people, because it is obvious that what's happening at the moment is not really working.
Today we were running a session that we called Mapping Connections. So we've done a lot of work on this project with participants, talking to them about how they define culture and cultural participation really broadly. Can we design or organise cultural experiences, whether that's digital or in person, to bring people together and foster nourishing senses of togetherness.
There is a very strong danger as you get older that you become more reclusive. You only really want to deal with the familiar, and anything that helps older people re-engage in whatever way, I think it improves your health, both mentally and physically, that you're engaged in some sort of creative activity.
Technologies often are designed by young white men in labs who really don't know anything about older people, and they certainly know very little about older people who don't fit into mainstream representations. So the people we're working with are disabled, socioeconomically and racially minoritized. Those are not the kind of people that are usually involved in design processes. It's a research project, and in order to be able to do a 3-year research project of this scale, we need substantial funding. And so the UKRI Social Behavioural Design project funding has just enabled us to do the project and to do it really well and very ethically as well, because the funding has allowed us to provide the kind of support we need for the co-researchers and for other partner organisations to get involved.
The SPACE project, so that stands for Supportive Environments for Physical and Social Activity, Healthy Ageing and Cognitive Health. And it's really all about how where we live and how we live can promote better brain health. So one of the particular innovations of this project is taking what we call a systems science lens to it. So that is looking not just at one particular factor such as air quality, but a number of different factors and what those interactions are.
We have 2 devices here which we set up for the participants. The first one being a GPS tracker, and the second one being what we call an accelerometer. We can use those 2 sets of data, we can almost merge them together to find out whether people are doing physical activity in a green space or an urban space. And then we can then use the data we have from the cognitive assessments to try and find links between the 2.
So essentially my team's role in the SPACE project is to explore how those environmental stressors really get under the skin. We're particularly interested in looking at epigenetics, so really teasing out the explanation between what people inherit from their parents and what the environmental stressors are.
I'm responsible for work package 2, which is really linking environmental data to the NICLA longitudinal data set.
It's really important to have the lived experience there, and I think that's one of the key parts of the research. The Queens are very keen to have the voice of all stakeholders, but particularly older people, so that we can align what the evidence is saying to the experience of people here in Belfast.
We aim to have academic publications, of course, but ultimately it's much better to be able to impact upon policy. So if we can show impact from our research that interacting well with your environment promotes brain and cognitive health, then we would hope to be able to implement that in policy.
All good research is based on what has come before, what are the needs, what are the gaps, and it was those gaps and opportunities that allowed us to really develop the SPACE project.
The population is ageing, but it's more important to add quality to extra years rather than to have sickness in the last years of your life.
Really critical to have money available for this sort of research because it's what's providing the evidence base for future urban planning.
This project wouldn't have been possible without the funding from the UKRI Healthy Ageing Challenge. It's really been fundamental to allow us to put together this ambitious 3-year programme of work.